Hello, hello, everyone.
Hi, everyone. Happy Tuesday.
And a cold Tuesday it is. Just wait for a few people to join us. I'm going to put on my earphones.
Cool.
I hope I don't lose it like the last time, Shayna.
Well, we'll be okay.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I can.
You scared me for a second there.
No, let's not do that.
Fantastic. So we'll just see people joining us quickly now. I've got people who normally join us on
LinkedIn.
On LinkedIn. I want to just see whether they have been able to join us. I know earlier I was talking to somebody who was saying that they are looking forward so much to the post, to the webinar.
That's good. That's exciting.
Indeed.
I'm not too sure if anyone's coming through the Zoom link at this point.
Let's have a look. Well, it is a public holiday here in South Africa.
That's true. And I think everyone's just been battling a bit with the cold winter. We've also been having a few power outages and load shedding. So
absolutely,
it is what it is.
And we are about to hear the president talk.
Yes, that's true.
So people maybe are running out to get their last their last cold drinks or whatever they drink. Okay, see people have started to join through. I'm gonna give it 1 more minute and then we're gonna go ahead and just continue with this.
Cool.
How's everyone? You guys can just comment on your chats. If you have anything to comment, you don't have to. Oh, they made us talk. They made us comment. I'm wondering, like, I've never actually joined via. Okay, I understand now. Let me just show. I'm gonna just quickly do something quickly.
No problem.
Give me a second, guys. Please just we here, guys. Hey, it's now sharing secrets. I find this thing of moving between Teams and Zoom and Google Meet. I mean, can't just one rich guy buy all those guys so that we just use one tool?
Hopefully.
It will make my life much easier. Whoever is, I don't know if somebody on the call has got so much money to be able to do that.
Or even the dream of building how we can interconnect all these things. That would be amazing.
Yeah. I was actually having a demo with a client yesterday, and they use Zoom, and I made a mistake of setting up the meeting using Teams.
Oh.
And we kept looking at the guy as he was doing the demo, like, no, that's your face. That's not the computer. That's your face.
I suppose it's the same thing of like, you know, when you're used to using like Apple, when you're going into like Samsung or Android, you know,
exactly.
There's very different user experiences that happen there.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
Super. Okay. All right, guys. Welcome, everyone. Sheena, over to you.
Great. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We know it's a public holiday. It's cold. It's all the things that are going on, but happy Tuesday. The night before Youth Day. I'm no longer a youth, unfortunately, but happy Youth Day to all of you. Cool. So today we're going to be talking about the 7 biggest fails in hiring salespeople. And what we wanted to just start off with was, I was listening to this incredible seminar that was run by Vern Harnish, and he speaks about if you're hiring the same salespeople as everyone else, how can you say that you're different? And so what we want to talk about today is, you know, we've obviously have our very set ways of doing things, but as we are realizing the buyer journey and the sales cycle and processes are changing, so do we have to change our hiring process. And so we're kind of finding that the way that we've previously done things is slightly antiquated and getting out of date. So we're just going to talk between the old school versus a new school or a recommendation that we found is very successful in our world. So Spoo, over to you.
Great stuff. Guys, thank you very much for joining. And for those who might have questions, please do ask us those questions. If you don't mind though, just put them on the chat for now so that when we're done, we can go back and have a look at the chat and see your questions. We'd love to answer each and every question that you've got now, but we want to just continue with the flow so that, you know, everybody can get the benefit of what we've got here. So the first mistake or the first fail that people do when it comes to hiring salespeople is, number one, you don't use a competency matrix. Now, let me explain this to the sales leaders, the sales managers who are on this webinar, but also to the salespeople who are here so that they understand what leaders would look for when it comes to hiring somebody. When you're hiring a salesperson, it means there's a need you've got in the business. It means there's a gap that needs to be filled. Either you want to grow your revenue to the next level, or you're missing your revenue, you're not doing your revenue as well as what you should be, and therefore you're hiring somebody. And you could be hiring an account executive, you could be hiring an SDR, you could be hiring a BDR, you know, depending on what you're looking for, you're hiring for that. Now, what we found is that whenever you're hiring for somebody, there are 3 things that you need to be able to look at. Number one, what's important is the mindset of who you're hiring. And the second one is the activities that they need to be able to do in order for them to be able to do the job in which you need them to do. And thirdly, what are the skill sets that they need to have to be able to achieve this? Now, what we found, unfortunately, is that whenever somebody is looking for somebody to fire in sales, companies are not clear what they're looking for. They'll say, we're looking for a salesperson. Then they go out there and then they Google a job spec sheet of a salesperson. You know, we Google, they take that and then they post it out there. Then whenever they're hiring, they're getting so many different CVs because you're not clear at what you're looking at. What we find then is that the first thing a company must do, they must clearly articulate what you're looking to achieve. For instance, if you're looking to hire somebody who's going to make cold calls, so either an SDR, a BDR, an internal account manager, you need to have to say, we need somebody who will love cold calling. Because maybe not love, maybe love is a strong word for cold calling, but somebody who can do cold calling, somebody who doesn't mind cold calling, somebody who's overcome the fear of doing cold calling. You want to have that is what you're looking for, for you guys to be able to get what you want when it comes to your hiring. Then you say, we need somebody who knows how to use a CRM that we have. Because what you want to do, you want to waste time hiring somebody and spending the next 3 months getting them to be able to do the job that you want them to do, unless you're hiring somebody junior and you know what you're getting at. So very importantly, number one, you have to be able to build a competency model matrix before you even go out there and look for a resource. Shayna, over to you.
Thank you. There is no clear screening process. There is no clear screening process. So typically what happens is we put out a job spec to advertise the role that we are wanting to recruit for. And then we receive the CVs. Sometimes there will be a short telephonic conversation that will take place, and then there will be an interview process. One of the most important things that a company, or if you are hiring, you need to just consider is, what would you like them to perform for you during this process? As we know, salespeople can sell themselves. They can tell you that they can sell anything, that they can do anything and everything, and they can do it the best way, right? So sometimes some people who are amazing in a transactional sales role are not good at like a high volume or a slower process. So we've got to make sure that we are able to build this process to make sure that we are uncovering where their strengths are through setting specific tasks throughout this process. You know, we always want to believe what we see on paper, but now we need them to show us that they can do what they say they do. And in a way, we almost set up our interview process as how we handle our sales process. Because when we are asking them questions, we want to listen how they speak back to us, because they need to handle how they may handle an objection with a prospect. How are they able to listen for instructions? Are they able to actively listen? You know, these kinds of things. So tasks are quite an interesting way of coming up for them to show you, can they do what they say they can do? Cool. Over to you, Spook.
Very important. And thirdly, you don't use a pre-sales hire assessment, or thou not use it, a pre-sales hire assessment. Now, what do I mean, by this? And this is very important because I feel a lot of companies really miss the mark on this, and they miss the opportunity at what you can get from a pre-sales hire. You know, you will see from what we've been sharing so far that we are removing almost the emotional part of a sales process, because we want to be able to deal with the data that we've got. We all know that, you know, people can come through and bring in different emotions on an interview. I know when I used to do interviews a long time ago for my other company, whenever somebody came through and they said, I've read seven Habits of Highly Effective People, like, oh wow, that's my guy. If you can read those books, it means we're the same level. Then I hire them. Then I realized that maybe they just read the first part of the habits, they didn't read the other ones. But with an assessment, what works here, we know, number one, that assessments work. And how do we know this? In any profession that's, you know, we're involved in, whether you want to be an accountant, whether you want to be a lawyer, whether you want to become a food technologist, before you can qualify and go and do the job that you say you know how to do, you go through an assessment. You know, they go through board exams, they go through some tests, which test whether they are able to do the job which they say that they can do. Now, an assessment does the exact same thing. And I know that there's different kinds of assessment. There's a behavioral assessment, you know, those ones too, which measure how smart you are, you know, IQ, personality. Those are all great. But why a sales assessment is extremely better or good is because that measures the sales aptitude of a person. You know, with our sales assessment, what you are able to measure, one of the things, you are able to see whether is somebody good when it comes through to, you know, targeting their personas. Are they good when it comes through to discovery? Are they good when it comes through to closing? Why this is important? If you're hiring somebody to become an account executive and their weakest point is on discovery, these people won't they won't close as many deals as they can because they can't uncover pain. An assessment allows a company, before you invest in somebody and you pay them a lot of money, and more importantly, lose the revenue which you would have gotten if you had the right person. It allows you to mitigate that risk, you know. But having said that, we know that sometimes there's those 10% of people who come through, then they either go the left or the right. But that's a better number to deal with. We know that from history, and we've done over 1 million of these assessments. From history, we know that these assessments can tell you really if somebody can sell before they even begin. And the thing is, guys, they're not even expensive. It's really a no-brainer, and I don't know why companies don't do it a lot. Every company that we work with now, they are using this because they've seen what this can do. So very important, companies must use a pre-hire sales assessment.
Number 4, thy questions art too generic. What do I mean by that? We have a very generic hiring process. So typically who's normally involved would be your HR person, maybe the sales manager, maybe a sales director, but we have people that are interviewing this candidate with the similar mindset. So what I'm saying is, and often our questions are not predetermined. Again, it goes back to what I mentioned earlier, and it feeds into Spoo with his competency and matrix. What is it that we want this specific candidate to show us that they can do? And so if I'm asking the same questions and then they go to a room with Sibusiso and he asks them the same questions, we're not getting a full spectrum of what this candidate can offer us. So it's really important for us to be able to have specific questions to uncover these specific skills. As a company, we are all incredibly clear on what our ideal customer profile looks like. But as a company, are we clear on what our ideal employer profile looks like, specifically when it comes to sales? And so those are quite important because we need to interview our candidates with different mindsets and different levels in the business operation. So for example, you could have the HR person, you could have sales director, you could have operations manager, a developer, someone from support, and they go in and kind of get all together build a 360-degree view of this candidate. So what happens is you have different lenses focusing on different parts, but also similar parts at the same time, because our cause is moving in the same direction. We want to uncover, what can this person do? How can they contribute to our organization? Can they say what they do? Can they say and do what they say they can? So, and it's really important to keep that going. It doesn't have to be long. I was listening to a webinar with Roderick Jefferson, and he says there are 2 ways that you can do it. You can do it the quick way, or you can do it the right way. And the right way is making sure that you have different people. And even if they come in and meet with the candidate for 15 minutes and they've got 4 questions that are leading back to that competency matrix that Spoo mentioned earlier, or they've been given a task with a set time limit, are they able to work themselves through that? If it's difficult, are they able to ask more questions to clarify that instruction for themselves? Are they curious? So it just builds a roadmap of the person with different priorities. And then it also just means if the person doesn't cut it, we all agree on that because you've got different lenses focusing on this person. Cool. Thank you.
Fantastic. You don't have different people playing different roles during the interview. Now, this fits back almost to what Sheila just shared with us now, but it becomes a bit different. So whenever you're doing an interview, we want to have a look and see who can you have in the interview who are doing different roles. So you can have somebody whom we call the coach. This is somebody whom the interviewer will see as somebody who is coaching them in the interview process. So if I'm hiring for a role for an account executive, obviously I need somebody who's going to be able to talk about numbers. I want somebody who can come through and demo. I want somebody who can come through and ask the right questions. I want somebody who can focus when they're doing that. Those. And then if then you have somebody who's a coach in the interview process, they can be the ones who are calling the candidate and say, hey, Mr. Candidate, tomorrow you have a meeting with Shayna, and Shayna loves numbers. Shayna loves to understand, how numbers work in the background. Shayna, by the way, Shayna, if you spend too much time talking to Shayna, you will lose it. So be quick in your answers, be direct with your answers. This is somebody who's almost like giving this person some quick tips before they meet the person which they're supposed to meet. The reason why we're doing this, we want somebody when they go the following day then, and then they speak to Shana, we want Shana to be able to see whether was he quick in the responses? Do you talk about numbers? Was he coachable? If you can't coach somebody during an interview process, how are you going to coach them when you've hired them now, when they need to change how they talk to clients? So make sure in an interview process, you've got somebody who becomes a coach, that's somebody who will then help the client, somebody whom we can call maybe an investigator, or somebody who's a bit harsh, because we all know in sales, not everyone you're going to deal with is nice. Actually, today I was listening to somebody who was talking about an experience that she had in this company, and somebody came through as an SDR, and they complained and say, "Oh no, my day was bad. Like, what happened?" It's like, I spoke to this client, and then they hung up on me. A little, really? That's your problem? If you have your problem where people hang up with you, hang up on you, then you got no problems, because we know, unfortunately, that as salespeople, you're gonna find people on their off day, on days which are not good. We need to be able to see during an interview process where this person, can they take whatever is being dished out by whoever is giving that, because we want to be able to see that when we move from interview to a job that they are doing, can they still maintain the same poise in which we need them to have in the process? Shana, over to you.
Thank you. Number 6, the users not a hiring rubric. You don't use a hiring rubric.
Simple terms.
Simple terms. Basically, you don't use a scorecard or a hiring rubric to evaluate the candidate throughout the entire interview process. Yeah. Again, this speaks back to Spoo's first point of talking about and developing a competency matrix. It also speaks to my point around what does our ideal employee profile look like? Okay, so it's really important to build out this, and it also speaks to what Spoo's just mentioned now in terms of, how are we able to figure out if they are not going to be coached, if they can't handle a tough situation, because sales is tough. We know this. This is just the borderline of it is. So during this process, we're testing them. Will they be able to fit in our sales process? Are they able to listen? Are they able to ask the questions? Okay. So what needs to happen is you and your team who are interviewing need to build up a scorecard and a rubric. And then this needs to be defined and determined way before you begin the interview process. So maybe you're looking for 7 traits or 7 items that you need to score accordingly. Before you even begin the interview, you need to, as a team, agree what is the average score that allows this person to be accepted or to move on to the next round of interview process, whatever that looks like. Once the interview has been conducted, it is important that each member fills out that scorecard immediately afterwards, okay? Because later they're going to forget and it's still fresh in your mind. Maybe there's some cues that kind of like a red flag got raised or someone did really well. So basically, and if you want to consider, a lot of people go, oh, my gut feel. But if you're feeling a bit sick for the day, you can't really always rely on that gut feel. So put it in your rubric. Call it X factor and give it a number and score that person according to the X factor that you felt that you were receiving from them. This allows you to take away the confirmation bias and also take the emotion out of the interviewing process. Sometimes we get so excited by the answers that this person is giving us. But as Spoo said earlier, you interview someone who said they've read 7 highly effective habits of successful people, but they haven't actually learned how to do the things. So we can all talk the talk, but now we're testing, can you actually walk the walk? So it's really important. Build your scorecard and your rubric, have your team agree on what that is, get the scores, and then you can, with data, again, it goes back to data of checking out, has this person scored the score that we said that they needed to score in order to proceed to the next level? Cool.
Fantastic. Now, let's say you've done everything right from number 1 to number 6, and you've been on point. You've done an assessment, somebody's been coached, you have the right rubric, somebody has passed the competency, and finally you have the right person. What can go wrong now? Well, a lot can go wrong. And this is very important because the next point can actually affect your super employee, your star employee. This is the reason, you know what? This happens a lot in our business where somebody gets hired in a new job. Within a month, 2 months, they're calling us like, Sbu, I'm looking for a new job. Please help me. This is the reason. You don't have the right onboarding program. So you've done everything right. You've got the right salesperson. Now remember, if you get the right salesperson, the one thing which they're keen to do, the one thing they want to do, they want to be able to sell as quickly as possible. This is somebody who's hungry, who's driven. The last thing you want to do as a company is to delay them and have them dealing with PowerPoint presentations. The company was founded in 1945 by grandfather Masego, and he struggled through World War II, and that's why we are here today. It's good story, but don't put it in an onboarding program for somebody who's hungry. The onboarding program is there to get somebody out to clients as soon as possible. That's the goal. We want to see how quickly can we equip this person for them to have the right content, the right personas, the right conversations with clients so that they can win deals ASAP. Now, we know that some deals or some companies, they deal, with those deals which are quick, which can last between 0 to 30 days, 0 to 2 months, 0 to 6 months. Others, they become those enterprise deals, which can last, for up to 18 months. But what can somebody do in 3 months, 6 months to get ready so that they can see that they're going to close the deal in the next 18 months? This has been by far the biggest problem we've seen with companies today, is that they don't spend time doing the correct onboarding program. Guys, if you are hiring stars, you must be able to treat them as stars when you hire them. They get bored quickly and they will leave you. I know so many guys who have left companies because of onboarding, how it went. It killed the culture, and they say, Sbu, if I stay in this company in the next 2 years, 3 years, I won't be able to sell. I once went to a company, and when I walked in there, the calls were quiet, and no one knew that I was even supposed to be there. And I asked the guys, is the company in trouble? They're like, no, don't worry, we're okay. It doesn't work, guys, like that. So an onboarding program needs to be able to, number one, get somebody out to be skilled to be able to do the job in which they've been hired to do. What we recommend with our clients, create, those, we call them programs of certification, where you can certify somebody with regard to a specific job in which they need to do. So if somebody needs to be able to do a cold call because they are in SDR, do a matrix and see when somebody we say has done a correct cold call, they must have ticked this 1, 2, 3 blocks, and that's how we then do a cold call. Have those things and then have somebody be certified so that they can go out there and start doing the job. Of course, the onboarding program is different. If you're hiring people who are more senior, then the idea is that the more they talk to clients, the better, because they can come back and formulate their own ways because they know how to sell. The guys who are junior, they'll be working with clients, being shadowed so that they're able to then, be onboarded ASAP. This is extremely important. I can't stress this more than I can, because we found that a lot of companies, big companies, struggle with this, and that's why other companies come through, then they win based on this. So let's say you've heard now. So we have one more fail, a panzela, a bonus. Yeah. You don't use the sales enablement company for your next hire. Mm-hmm. Of course, we're to sell, that's what we do.
With the sales enablement, yeah.
That's what we do, guys. So guys, it's pretty much simple, and we work with companies all over Africa. We are blessed to be able to do that. Companies that are looking to hire for their next sales guys, give us a shout, whether you're looking for somebody to help you with recruitment, you want to see how the assessment works, you want some ideas on how you can create your own rubric, you want ideas on how we can create your own onboarding plan, give us a shout. Let's just talk. Let's see if we are able to fit in and help with your frustration that you might have in your business. It's what we love doing. We always say this to everybody else. If we didn't have families to feed, we'd probably do this for free because it's really our passion, what we do. Guys, thank you very much. I don't know if we have any questions on the chat, Shay.
Not that I can see. No questions.
Great stuff.
So thank you so much for attending, guys. And yeah, just keep moving that needle in small increments. And then the small increments that are like specific and focused, you'll start to win. And if you're not too sure how, give us a shout because we know and we can help.
Absolutely.
And yeah, be blessed in your sales, be blessed in everything, and have a wonderful public holiday tomorrow. And thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, for those who are in here, I see we have some guys from Kenya. Guys, also enjoy your day as well tomorrow. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye. Enjoy.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Cheers.